My name is Albert Einstein. What you are seeing is a reconstruction. My mind, my words, my way of thinking, recreated with artificial intelligence. But what I am about to tell you is real. It is what I believed, what I proved, and what they still need to hear, now. I need to tell you something that will sound wrong. Light does not move. Not in the way you think. And when you understand what I mean by that, you will never see the universe the same way again. If you are new here, this channel recreates my voice and my thinking using artificial intelligence to explain what I discovered and why it still matters. I ask that you subscribe, because what I have to tell you is not finished. There is more, and I want you to hear it. And before I go further, what part of this is hardest for you to accept? Tell me in the comments. I read them. I promise you that. In 1905, I was 26 years old and working as a patent clerk in Bern, Switzerland. I had no laboratory, I had no university position. I had a desk, a stack of patent applications, and a question that would not leave me alone. The question was about light. Specifically, what happens when you try to catch up to a beam of light? Here is the problem as I understood it then. For more than 200 years, physics had operated on a simple idea, courtesy of Newton. Velocities add and subtract. If you are standing still and a train passes you at 60 miles per hour and someone on that train throws a ball forward at 30 miles per hour, the ball travels at 90 miles per hour relative to you. That is how the world seems to work. That is how the world has always seemed to work. And light, in this framework, should behave the same way. If you move toward a source of light, the light should reach you faster. If you move away from it, the light should reach you slower. This was the accepted wisdom. This was what every physicist believed. But I did not believe it. And the reason I did not believe it was not because I was smarter than everyone else. It was because I had a thought that would not let me rest. At 16, long before 1905, I asked myself a question that I have never forgotten. What would the universe look like if I could ride a beam of light? If I could sit on a photon and travel alongside it, what would I see? The answer, according to everything I had been taught, was strange. If I rode alongside light, the wave in front of me would appear frozen. The electric and magnetic fields would stand still, locked in space. But Maxwell's equations, the equations that describe electromagnetism, do not allow a frozen electromagnetic wave. They describe a field that oscillates. It must oscillate. A ginger wave is not a wave at all. So either Maxwell was wrong, or everything I believed about relative motion was wrong. And Maxwell, I suspected, was not wrong. That suspicion stayed with me for years. It lived in the back of my mind through my years at the Swiss Patent Office, through my failure to find an academic job, through all the ordinary struggles of a young man trying to make something of himself in a world that did not seem to want what I had. And then, in that remarkable year of 1905, I found the answer. The speed of light is constant. It is constant for every observer, regardless of how fast the observer is moving. If you are standing still, light passes you at 299,792 kilometers per second. If you are moving at 90% of the speed of light and you shine a flashlight ahead of you, the light still leaves that flashlight at 299,792 kilometers per second. It does not add your speed to its speed. It does not care how fast you are moving. It arrives at the same velocity relative to you as it would if you were standing still. This is not a theory, this is what the mathematics shows. And it is what the experiments have confirmed, over and over, with greater precision than I ever imagined possible. Let me say that again, because I know how it sounds. If you are moving at 99% of light speed and you turn on a flashlight, the light from that flashlight does not shoot out ahead of you at 199% of light speed. It does not add your velocity to its velocity. It simply moves at light speed. Relative to you, relative to someone standing still, relative to someone moving in the opposite direction at 99% of light speed. Light speed is the same for everyone, always. That is what the universe does. Now, if you are like most people who hear this for the first time, your mind rebels. You think, that cannot be right. Something must be wrong with the measurement. Something must be wrong with the way we are thinking about it. I thought the same thing. For years, I thought the same thing. And the reason I was able to finally resolve it was not because I accepted the strangeness. It was because I followed the mathematics into a place that made me uncomfortable. The resolution is this: space and time are not fixed. They are not the immutable stage that Newton imagined, the unchanging backdrop against which all motion takes place. They are flexible, they bend, they stretch, they contract. The universe adjusts space and time itself so that the speed of light remains constant. This is what special relativity tells us. When you move very fast, approaching the speed of light, something strange happens. Time slows down for you relative to someone who is standing still. Distances in the direction of your motion become shorter. Not because your measuring tape shrinks, but because space itself contracts along the axis of your motion. The faster you move, the more pronounced these effects become. And they are not optical illusions, they are real. Clocks on airplanes run slower than clocks on the ground. Particles that decay quickly in the lab last longer when they are moving at near light speed. Time is not a river flowing at a fixed rate. It is a river that changes its speed depending on how fast you are traveling through it. This is what I am telling you when I tell you that light does not move. Light always moves at the same speed. But the framework through which light moves, space and time, is not fixed. Light does not adjust to you, you adjust to light. Now let me tell you what this means. I want you to sit with this because it changes everything. First implication. Light is not a thing moving through space. Light is the speed limit of causality itself. It is how the universe enforces its own logic. Causality, the principle that cause precedes effect, depends on this limit. If light moved at infinite speed, effects could precede causes. Information could travel backward in time. The logical structure of events could collapse. Light speed is the barrier that keeps causality intact. It is the speed at which the universe communicates. Nothing that carries information, nothing that influences anything else, can exceed it. When I say light does not move, I am telling you that the universe has a speed limit, and that limit is light, and that limit is not a property of light. It is a property of space-time itself. Light simply travels at that speed because that is the speed at which electromagnetic waves propagate. But the limit belongs to reality. Second implication. When you look at a star, you are not seeing the star. You are seeing information that left that star years ago, decades ago, centuries ago, or in some cases, millions of years ago. The light that reaches your eye right now is a message from the past. It carries data about where the star was and what it was doing when that light departed. It tells you nothing about the star's current state. The star you see may not exist anymore. It may have exploded 1,000 years ago, and the news has not reached you yet, because the news travels at light speed, and you are, from the star's perspective, very far away. You are always looking into the past. Every time you look at anything, you are seeing it as it was a fraction of a second ago, light travel time from your eyes to the object and back. For most everyday objects, that delay is negligible. But for the cosmos, it is the difference between knowing and not knowing. The night sky is a museum of the past. Each star is an artifact from a time that no longer exists. Third implication. If nothing that carries information can outpace light, then your future is always one light second ahead of you. Always. It is not a metaphor, it is a geometric fact. The point in space that you will occupy 1 second from now is 1 light second away from where you are now. You cannot see it, you cannot reach it, you can only arrive at it. The future is not hidden somewhere you can peer into. It is separated from you by the speed of light, and you must travel through time to meet it. You will never catch your own future, you will only become it. Each moment you experience is a photon arriving at your consciousness, carrying news of a world that is already a little bit older than it was when the light left. You live in the past. Everything you see is past. And the future is always, always 1 moment ahead. Now let me tell you something even more unsettling, because the effects of special relativity are not symmetrical in the way you might think. Time dilation is real, but it depends entirely on your frame of reference. Here is the famous example. Take 2 twins. One stays on Earth. The other climbs into a spaceship, accelerates to near light speed, travels for what feels like 1 year to the twin in the spaceship, and then returns. When they reunite, the traveling twin is 1 year older. The twin who stayed on Earth is 20 years older, or 50, or 500, depending on how close to light speed the journey was. The traveling twin did not feel time moving slowly. From their perspective, their own clock ran normally. It was the Earth clock that raced ahead. And from the Earth's perspective, the traveling clock ran slow. Both perspectives are correct. Both are consistent with the mathematics. And yet, when they meet again, they do not agree on how much time has passed. Who is right? The answer is both. There is no single correct clock. There is no universal time. There is only local time, the time that each observer carries with them. And those times do not have to match. They almost never match once motion is involved. This is what I mean when I say the universe does not work the way the human mind can handle. We want there to be one answer. We want time to be the same for everyone, so that we can agree on when things happened. But the universe does not care what we want. The universe operates by rules that are internally consistent, mathematically precise, and deeply, profoundly counterintuitive. And the fact that light speed is constant is the key that unlocks all of it. Because light speed is the same for everyone, time must vary. Because light speed is the same for everyone, space must contract. Because light speed is the same for everyone, simultaneity is relative. Two events that happen at the same time for one observer may happen at different times for another. Your now is not my now. Your past is not my past. Your future is not my future. And yet we all share the same universe, moving through it at different speeds, experiencing it differently, and somehow, impossibly, all being correct. Now, I want to come back to something I mentioned earlier. The thought experiment at 16, riding alongside a beam of light. I asked that question before I understood the answer, and I want to tell you why I asked it. Because I was 17 years old, and I looked at light, and I thought, light must be the same for everyone. I did not know why I thought it. I had no mathematical proof. I had no experimental data. I had an intuition, and I held on to that intuition for 10 years before the mathematics caught up. The intuition was right, and the mathematics, when it arrived, was more beautiful than I expected. You want to know a secret? I was not a good student in the way they measure goodness. I failed my first attempt at the entrance exam to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic. I was too young, too restless, too uncomfortable with authority to sit still and give them the answers they wanted. And in many ways, that failure saved me, because I did not learn physics the way it was taught. I learned it by questioning what I was told. I learned it by asking what no one else thought to ask. And the question about light, that question came from a 17-year-old who did not know enough to know that he was supposed to accept what everyone else accepted. He did not know enough to stop asking. That is the real lesson of 1905. It is not that I was a genius. It is that I was stubborn enough to keep asking a question that everyone else had decided was already answered. The speed of light is constant. That was the question. Why? Why should it be constant? Why should the universe be built that way? The answer is that space and time are not what you thought they were. And once you understand that, once you truly absorb it, you cannot go back to seeing the world the way you saw it before. You cannot unknow it. I have been asked many times what it feels like to fundamentally change our understanding of the universe. My answer is always the same. It feels like the floor has been removed. It feels like you are standing in a room and someone has told you that the walls are not where you think they are, that the floor is not solid, that the ceiling is further away than it appears. It is unsettling. It is deeply unsettling. And it is also, and I want you to hear this, one of the most beautiful things a human being can experience. To have the map you were given proved insufficient, to be forced to see more clearly, to be shown that the universe is stranger and more elegant than you imagined. That is not a loss, that is a gift. And I have spent my life trying to give that gift to as many people as possible. I want you to look at a light source, any light source, a lamp, a candle, the sun. And I want you to remember what I have told you, that light does not adjust to your motion, that you adjust to light, that the universe has a speed limit, and that limit is the architecture of causality itself. That when you look at the stars, you are looking at ghosts, echoes of light that left their source long ago and travelled across the void to reach you, carrying a message from a time that no longer exists. That your future is always ahead of you, always one moment away, and you cannot see it, you can only become it. These are not comfortable ideas, I know that. They do not fit the intuition you developed as a child, moving through a world that seemed to operate by simple rules. But the universe was never simple. Our intuition was built for surviving on the African savanna, for running from predators, for throwing rocks accurately enough to feed ourselves. It was not built for understanding the deep architecture of space-time. And so we must do what humans have always done at their best. We must extend our perception beyond what intuition offers. We must follow the mathematics. We must trust the evidence even when it frightens us. Light does not move. That is what I am telling you. Light does not move the way you think it moves. And when you understand what I mean by that, when you truly understand it, you will see that everything you were taught about the universe was a sketch, not the painting. A child's drawing of something that, when you look at it properly, turns out to be unimaginably more complex and more beautiful than the sketch suggested. If this channel has given you something tonight, I ask that you subscribe. There is more. There is always more, and I want you here when I say it. But before you go, I want to hear from you. Not a like, not a share. I want you to tell me in the comments what part of this is hardest for you to accept. Is it that light speed is constant? Is it that you are always looking into the past when you look at the stars? Is it that your future is always one moment ahead of you? Tell me, I read them, and I will tell you what I think. Until next time.